Om Om Shuklam Bharadaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnur Gurur Devo Maheshwarah Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So we'll look at Shloka 28. Oh, sorry, 20. We did 29 and now we are doing 30. Sorry. So we did Mantrinyamba Virachita Vishanga Vadhatoshita. So that's been completed. So we'll look at Shloka 30 and how to chant it, and then we'll go into the meanings. Vishukra Prana Harana Varahi Virya Nandita Kameshwara Mukhaloka Kalpita Shri Ganeshwara. So these two are one nama per line. Who would like to chant these with me?
I can, Guruji.
And so we'll do the individual lines first and then the full shloka. Vishukra prana harana varahi virya nandita
Vishukka prana harana varahi viryanandita
Kameshwara mukhaloka kalpita Shri Ganeshwara.
Kameshwara Mugaloka Kalpita Shri Ganeshwara.
Awesome. So we'll do the full shloka. Vishukra prana harana varahi virya nandita Kameshwara mukhaloka kalpita Shri Ganeshwara.
Vishukra prana harana varahi viryanandita Kameshwara Mugaloka Kalpita Shri Ganeshwara.
Awesome.
Thank you.
So last week we spoke about Nitya Devi. So I'm hoping everybody understood the concept of Nitya Devis and the names, and we have taken some pictures were shared on the forum. So
I wanted to share something, Guruji. I've been looking at the moon every time and I'm telling myself.
very nice. Very nice. And actually there is a whole Chandra yoga. So any one topic we take, there is a whole yoga behind it, right? So there is a tantra that is about there are 16 kalas for each of the phase of the waxing and the waning phases of the moon. There is a kala associated with it, and there is a devi we know that are associated with it, and each has an attribute, a characteristic. So every day there is a vrata also, like I'm forgetting the name, that the how much food is taken each day, and they start with an amavasya and they take like one morsel of food and they increase to 15 morsels, and then it just gets reduced to the 60, like the one morsel again for 15 days. And there's a whole vrata to actually do this as the yoga. But each of those phases of moon, there is a kala that that can be attracted, and that helps in a person's evolution spiritually. So just FYI on that, and at some point when time permits, we'll go a little into those kalas and what that vrata is for now. So we'll move to the next nama, Vishukra Pranaharana Varahi Vidyanandita. So in the previous nama, we've seen that Vishanga, Mantrini, mother, Matangi or Raja Matangi, Shyamala or Shyama Matangi. So there are many names for that mother. So she devised devised a plan and destroyed Vishanga, who is the brother of Bhandasura. Now, the brothers came from his right shoulder, left shoulder. We have read that as well. So the second brother is Vishukra. So now we are talking about this Vishukra. Rejoicing in the strength of Varahi, the taker of the life of Vishukra. So Mantrini, Raja Matangi has destroyed Vishanga, and Varahi mother, in that form of Varahi, has taken the life of Vishukra. So we also have previously talked about Varahi a little bit. So the Tripura Siddhantam explains the word Varahi because Devi, the Supreme, appeared to Varahanandanatha, one of the gurus who was devoted to Devi, and because she has the face of a boar, she is called Varahi. But the actual idea is she is the Shakti of Varaha Avatara. So therefore, she is Varahi. The sons of Bhanda are stains called Anava. And we've talked about the three kinds of impurities, the Anava Malam, Karmika Malam, Mayika Malam. So they are the Anava Mala and other impurities. And Vishanga, V means opposed to Sangha, attachments or craving for worldly objects. Visha is also poison. Ga is to go. Perceiving sensuous objects with a poisoned view. So that is what Vishanga means. It is our attachment to sensual objects that in a Puranic way, it is being explained that praying to Mother Varahi in the form of Varahi, we will get rid of those attachments. She will destroy those attachments in us. So Bala, Mantrini, and Varahi are represent certain internal modifications. When these destroy the opposed tendencies indicated in the names of the 2074, so those three names, his own divine self becomes pleased, is how it is explained. So one thing that I want to mention here, when we pray, these things happen in us, and we would wonder how true, like, somebody like my son needs a lot more like scientific answers than, oh, do this mantra and you will get this. So I've done some research, and I worked with a research scientist who is a PhD, and he is doing research. And this is like off of Lalita Sahasranamam topic, but I think very important for you to understand. So when we do mantras, they have effects. And this effect was tangible in our experimentation, and you won't believe this. It's a beautiful experiment, so I would like to share it. So we were very specifically focused on a certain set of mantras, which I won't be able to reveal without his permission. And he is an amazing, beautiful chanter. When we say, "Oh, I chant Lalita Sahasranamam in 10 minutes," he chants one nama for a minute. So that's how, and he says, what is the urgency? Why are you rushing? When the mother is sitting in front of you with the whole creation that she has to take care of, she is not worried about time and she is sitting in front of you. Then why are you worried about something else? So what we did in this experimentation, we had water, the regular water, tap water, and I had in three different kinds of three different metals. There was a copper, a silver, and brass glass, and in which I had three different like three waters filled in those three glasses. And then he was chanting. So I tasted the water, and we calculated some pH. We've done the pH measurement, and with each of his chants of each of those namas, the taste of the water was different. That is my personal perception. You could be thinking like, okay, I'm biased. But after completing the chant, the pH of the water has changed. And you would not believe, if I told you that, and I'm the first person witness to this. And we've done like a lot more experiments since then. And you will see a lot of stuff on my table, like pH meters and the sonar, the tongs, and how sound travels, and all of this stuff that's around me. And meditation, when a mantra is chanted, I actually use a muse to just my skills on like how long am I active and things like that. So there are scientific proofs that there are biochemical changes that happen when we chant mantras or Vedic, any of the scriptures that we do, and each of these have an impact on our personality, our psychosomatic personalities, like psychological, and as well as the physically and mentally. So when we say, oh, by doing this mantra, you will get rid of attachments to sensual objects, it actually means that.
So much for sharing that, Sriji.
Yeah, Guruji, very interesting and so nice to know that.
Yeah. So hopefully.
Here or in India?
So the person I'm working with, there are two gentlemen, one in Coimbatore and one in Delhi, both PhDs, and we are just working on one project. And there are some universities and some organizations that are supporting and they're providing all the resources required for our project. So hopefully at some point a paper will be published. So I'm quite interested in this one project that I'm working on. I think we've been working for about 3.5 months now, and it'll take at least an year before we can say anything. So the diet, and I was like absolutely happy to be their lab rat, and everything is different. How we do, just how like waking up. Uh, there is a pranayama even before getting out of bed. And as such, like, in my head, there'll be like chanting going on. So I'll be chanting some mantra and I'll be in the middle of Durga Suktam by the time I wake up. I'm like, okay, I'll just finish the rest of it. But each of the aspects are being very specifically defined. Okay, let's try this and let's try this. So lots of nice work is being done, is what I can say.
Guruji,
It's
one
amazing you
question.
find time for all this, Shriji.
Yeah.
It's
When
just
you
amazing.
talk about the pH with the three different metals, was it different in the three different metals?
It was different. In copper, like, even when I started off, the first reading that we have taken on the pH, all three waters were exactly the same. But after an hour of chanting, and each time I was just tasting it, like I did not check in between pH, like, we've done 15 minutes on for pH, but I was tasting the water after every mantra was chanted, almost like, every 3 minutes I was tasting it, and I was able to like, and the person who was chanting was telling me, taste it, and this is what you may feel, this is what you're expected to feel. Yeah.
Thank you.
And we say, like, you should not drink water directly from the tap. Keep it for some time, because there are even water, like panchabhutas are tanmatras, and therefore they cause like chittam, and all of these are connected. So if you're in taking anything that is going into your body, has to be extremely well cared for, and what the source is and things like that. So the water, the food, the air that you're breathing, and how you're breathing it, and with the air, like with the vayus, we do also like the homa, right? So everything, what goes into your ears, what are you listening to, what are you speaking, what your karmendriyas are doing, what your jnanendriyas are doing, all of this is more defined. So I don't want to scare anybody with this kind of like, craziness in lifestyle, but it's amazing, is what I can say.
They say
Thank you
Shriji,
so much.
from
I know we're going off topic, but the scientist in me, if it's going to be unbiased, then you have to do it in the same metal, one with chanting and one without chanting, to know the difference. If you have three different metals, how can you prove? Is it because it's in the metal sitting there for a while, or I
Even
mean,
if
I
it is
believe in all this. I'm just saying.
correct. And even if it is, and I've done with a glass as well, and I'm actually doing those mantras with any of the water. So I actually drink water from mud, the pot glass. That's my glass. And I actually have rudrakshas in it. So 5 rudrakshas, and those 5 are of like different mukhas. Like, I don't know if everybody knows, rudrakshas have like,
Panchamukha.
chaturmukha rudra, panchamukha rudraksha, etc. So there are 5 different rudrakshas with 5 different mukhas, and that's the water I drink. And I don't drink it like right away, and I keep it, and then I transfer it into a glass, but still that water is settling in there. So we've done more than one experiment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Guruji, sorry, again off the topic. Like, have you seen the difference when you're drinking those water, Guruji? Is it like different kind?
The taste was different, and it was surprising. Like, obviously, we still have to do a lot more research before the paper can be published. And I agree with you, Anita ji. I question everything, but at the same time, I'm feeling like I
You're
must
blessed to
believe
be
this
there.
also.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Like that, I dwindle between those two. So I bounce off all the ideas and things with. The two main partners in my life, my son and my husband, both love what I do. but at the same time, they'll question me as well. So they'll say, okay, let's do this now. Show us. And when I do it, then they'll say, no, do you see this? So I bounce off my ideas with them, and it'll be a scientific paper. So for
So
sure,
That's really interesting. Excited to see that.
yeah.
which
We're
one had
in,
pH?
sorry, what was that, Satiji?
Which one had the higher pH out of these three?
So the copper one was of the lowest pH, and that's why it was told in our childhood too, like, drink from a copper glass. And they say, like, put water in the copper chambu is what we call it. And like, cover it with the lid and do a little shloka and puja to it and leave it in overnight. And first thing in the morning, even before you brush your teeth, drink that copper, like water from that pot. Now it actually makes sense to me on why they said that. And
Yeah, the taste is totally different, Guruji. We do it. That's why I asked you, like,
yeah,
whether the Rudraksha, the taste was different. Because in copper versus, like, if you keep in a steel, and especially, like, the thing changes completely. That's why I asked you. Thank you.
yeah. And the steel is like iron, right? And the aluminum is like very lead and all of those things that come into our body. I recently heard of something that actually pissed me off quite a bit. In the jails, when there were like freedom fighters, younger people that were taken to jail. Sorry, completely diverting off topic. Sorry about that. But I'll just share this one thing, atrocities that were done on us. So young people fighting for freedom, and they were put in jails. They were fed in aluminum plates, and their water was also given in that. And they say that because of that, their mind would not work as fast because of what they were consuming it from. And there is a whole story about it, which I won't go into. And we were told eat from a silver plate that has a gold, what we call as a flower in it. So my family, we've been eating from that, thinking like, oh, it's more of a tradition. But now, as we are doing the experiments, we understand why they have been telling that. And eating from a banana leaf or a badam leaf, and why they do certain things with the leaves and how all of that energy comes out when you put like hot annam or anything, any food item on the banana leaf. What comes out of it? It's just phenomenal study, and we don't understand it, right? Like we think, oh yeah, it's just some tradition. But there is so much behind it. That's the whole point of me starting this topic, is don't take these as, oh, it's a nama to chant, and oh, it's just some esoteric connection. There is scientific methodology on how these were presented to us. And as we were reading in Gita about Shraddha, if I don't know something, it's probably I do not understand it to the depth. That is where we are currently, unfortunately, because we have lost our tradition for so long. Many generations have not been up to date with this or have not been taught. We lost so much. We are at a stage where we say, okay, I'm going to accept this for now until something that I will either prove with my own scientific methodology, or I'll do my own experiments, or I'll wait for somebody to do it. But I'm not going to purely say, yeah, you know what, this is all trash. That at least that we should not say.
Guruji, can I say one thing?
Please go ahead, Sheshaji.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, it's very interesting. I would be interested to see your article, should it be published in the future. But I think, as you said, what I can add is like that science is a lot behind than the wisdom that we already had. See, that's what it is. And then the interesting thing that you mentioned about silver plate with gold flower in the center. That's where we used to, our ancestors at least, because now nobody is doing that. In fact, everybody is using paper plates and then contaminating the nature anyway. So I think there is a nice scientific reason for that. Our ancestors have found a lot before the science could. So the thing is, I mean, silver has the property of retaining the heat, and gold has the property of dispersing. So whenever you are eating in the silver plate, I mean, particularly, if guests are coming, we used to still do if an elderly person comes to our house, we used to do that.
Yeah.
So the reason is actually because we don't have microwaves or any other stuff there at the time. So if you put a hot rice in the silver plate, it retains longer time that heatness.
Mm.
So that's the main reason why silver plates are used. It retains. So similarly, why women wear gold ornaments? It's obviously to dispel the heat from the body. So that's what I think the scientific explanation why we eat in the silver plates. That's
I
what
see.
I scientifically, because I'm in the medical profession, I do look at these critically, and then there is a good logic in there.
Yeah. And eating from that, you're actually consuming that metal too, like whatever the metal, not that it melts with when we put in annam, but over a
Yes,
period of time, you're eating from an iron plate versus a silver plate versus like a banana leaf makes a huge difference on what is actually getting into your food.
absolutely,
Right? They say
absolutely.
like don't cook in, and what irritates me, sorry for using that term, is 20 years ago they'll say, yeah, you know what, this refined oil is fantastic, let's use it. And
Yes.
now 20 years later they will say, oops, that is causing us heart diseases, please don't use it, like go back to coconut oil. We were using coconut oil, we were using ghee.
Yes.
Why did you change us to this? And now why are you saying, oh yeah, you they will never say you were right, they'll say, oh yeah, we found something new.
So the problem with science is, I mean, it is so, in a infancy stage, I mean, they have so many goalposts each time.
Yeah.
Unlike the, wisdom that we already gained, which has, single goalpost. So
Yeah,
you don't have to chase after each goalpost. Hey, this is right. And then 2 years later, hey, we found some other evidence. So this is wrong. So we'll put another goalpost to reach. I mean, that's what is exactly happening. And then I believe
exactly.
that science is far, far, far more behind wisdom. And then what is obvious, science tells, but what is beyond obvious, our wisdom tells.
Wisdom, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly,
All right.
very much.
Hey, thanks for giving time, Doctor. That's rich.
I think I would like to add this also. Science is done by limited beings, so whatever they produce also will be limited,
Absolutely.
as opposed to Vedas and all, which is eternal and unlimited.
Exactly. And what science tries to deal with is a problem at the moment, and what Veda tries to deal with, like if we are talking about Ayurveda, it is a holistic well-being of the spirit and how body and mind and sense organ complex is going to support that evolution of that spirit. Whereas what we are trying to treat, or what science teaches us, is to take care of the body. And as we know, as of this moment, and that may change at a later time. So we know, like, we've been told, oh, eat something every 2-3 hours. And, oh, yeah, like, don't give the body so much of a break. Now, intermittent fasting is the more like the trendy word. Oh, yeah, don't eat for like these many hours. Yeah, we've said that. We've talked about lankanas. We spoke about why fasting on a certain days, like Shivaratri, Vaikuntha Ekadashi. We've been doing that. So I know, like, I am quite pissed off with sorry if there are doctors in the group. I personally, I've told my son, and I told you guys before too. So I actually have this idea of giving up, right? Like I say, okay, I'm going to give up on this, and I'm going to give up on this, like whether it is music or anything like that. So I told my husband and my son, I want to give up on allopathic medicines. I don't want to ever have them. Both of them looked at me and said, and my son immediately spoke and said, Mom, can you please not do anything like that? Don't take, it's okay to say I won't take it. But in a situation where you may be in when you're older, that I have to make some choices, at least
Consider.
have some mercy on me.
I
So,
think
Consider them.
I agree with your son, because
Yes,
being a
yes,
physician, I would say that for acute conditions, you should
yes,
never deny, what
right.
is scientifically proven and available. So
at the
I
moment.
think I am, I support both science and Sanatana Dharma, but there got to be some balance. I mean, what we do, but do not, never ever deny, medical attention if it is acute situation. As a
Uh,
physician, I am telling you.
yeah.
All right, okay. All right,
I
thanks.
know.
Back on
Sometimes it just,
topic, I have a question.
sure.
So you said there are three matas that destroy the malas in us or the bad in us. But who is the third one? Varahi, Mantrini, and I missed the third.
Bala. And we have spoken about Ashvarudha and Sampatkari. Those are also important. So all of this change and Bhandasura, his Sainya, his sons and his brothers, all of these represent the various different impurities in us, and how by chanting the names, or how these different Shaktis within us, because somebody else from outside cannot remove the impurities within us, especially if those impurities are more like the attachments, and they're not even considered as impurities in a scientific language, right? We say, oh, impurity is like, oh, if you're depressed, that's considered like, oh, I'll have a treatment for you for depression. But here we are talking about getting rid of attachment. That is not considered impurity anywhere else except our Vedas. So these once we this is how we will get rid of all of those impurities and be able to say, this body is not me, this mind is not me, these senses are not me, these pranas are supporting my existence, but they are not me. So the vijnana is not me. What I feel around me is not necessarily what the reality is, and be able to associate myself with that Atman and be able to see the universe as it is through the Paramatman's eyes, as let him be the Sakshi and let me not put coverings on top of the Sakshi within me. To get to that point, all of these would be necessary. Okay, so we'll move to and sorry about all the digression. Next nama is Mahaganesha Nirbhinna Vigna Yantra Praharshita. So what happens now is, what's the one with
Didn't do the
Kameshwara Mukhaloka.
Kameshwara Mukhaloka Kalpita Shri Ganeshwara. So the actual meaning of this.
Shruti, can you just summarize the meaning of the whole line? The Shukra Prana Harana Varahi Virya Nandita.
Yeah, so we'll do. Rejoicing in the strength of Varahi, the taker of the life of Vishukra. Vishukra Prana Harana Varahi Virya Nandita. Vishukra is Prana Harana, but the destroyer, Varahi, or her strength, Nandita, Mother Lalita, was rejoicing that. Okay. So Kameshwara Mukhaloka Kalpita Shri Ganeshwara. So the story, the Purana, so we need to understand why this nama actually came into existence. The meaning of the nama is Shri Ganeshwara was formed by her glances at Kameshwara. And why did that happen? Seeing the Devas fettered by magical figures set by the Daityas, Devi, by merely looking at her husband, gave birth to the great Ganapati, whose mantra is 28 syllables, by which the fettering influence of the magical figures was destroyed and the Devas were released. So in the Purana, now with all of these like armies destroying Bhandasura's sons and Bhandasura's brothers, Bhandasura created this Vigna Yantra. And there is a whole description for Vigna Yantra. I don't know where I can find it. Let me see if I can find it somewhere in my... so how many koshas, how many triangles and all of that. So he created a Vigna Yantra. And this Vigna Yantra could only be destroyed by Shiva's son. And in a war scenario, by purely looking, Mother Lalita looked at Lord Shiva and gave birth to Sri Ganeshwara, and Ganeshwara was born to destroy this. And again, what is this Vigna Yantra? The obstacles that form in our path to evolution, the spiritual evolution. And we always start with Ganesha as we know that, he is the obstructor of obstacles. And the reason also is in Mooladhara Chakra, we say Ganesha is the main deity. And Ganesha's mantra is the first thing that gurus will initiate in, and it's a 28 syllabled mantra. And by purely chanting that mantra, that's when other mantras are usually given. And that is to destroy these obstacles that are in the path of spiritual evolution. So sometimes we say if the sadhana is going really well, that's fine. But if there is like any obstacles to sadhana for a few days, like I've not been able to do anything, something or the other is coming up, and even though I intended to do something, I'm not able to do it. We always say do Ganesha mantra japa or do a Ganesha puja. So he can remove those obstacles. We can move forward in our spiritual sadhana. So Kameshwara is the pure Shiva without attributes, glances, personal knowledge of him. So Gana or Ganeshwara, Gana, the city formed of 8 things, Puryashtakam is what we call it, 8 things, consisting of 5 karmendriyas, 5 jnanendriyas, 4 antakarana, 5 pranas, 5 bhutas, kama, karma and avidya. All of these, he is the Ishvara of all of this. So Kalpita is attributed. He is the Ishvara of all of these that constitute our body, mind, sense complex. The Sukshma Shariram is what we call it. So by taking his support, the Vigna Yantra can be destroyed or Vignam can be destroyed. Did I make sense or did I go fast? Okay, assuming I made sense. So when a man attains consciousness and bliss, chit and ananda, though body, life, etc. appear, he attains the firm union with the universal consciousness and hence emancipation, what we call as Jivan Mukti. And we have spoken about this previously too. Mukti doesn't mean leaving this body or this person is interested in dying. It's not suicide, which is weird. Mukti is living in this body. This body has been given to us as a blessing. I can't even believe like losing this body until I finish so many other things that I have to do. So Jivan Mukti is living in this body in a more liberated way than if I were attached to it. So this body is considered more of an instrument than body being considered as myself. And this body helps us, like all of these practices will help our the association of our Atman with the Paramatman. And therefore, that's the Jivan Mukti state. There is a term here called as Madhya Vikasha, which means the great Ganesha who is mentioned in this Nama. The manner of developing the Madhya Vikasha is said that is given in the Shiva Sutras, the Shakti Sutras, by destruction of doubt. So doubt is one of those first obstacles. Oh, if I did this, will this happen? Or is this the right path for me? Or should I do this or should I do that? All of these are the first obstacles, and Ganesha will relieve us from those doubts and take us forward. Okay, with that, yeah, I think we'll go to the next one. 31st shloka. महागणेश निर्भिन्न विघ्न यंत्र प्रहर्षिता भंडासुरेंद्र निर्मुक्त शस्त्र प्रत्यस्त्र वर्षिणी. Who would like to chant this shloka with me?
I can.
महागणेश निर्भिन्न विघ्न यंत्र प्रहर्षिता
महागणेश निर्भिन्न विघ्न यंत्र प्रहर्षिता
भंडासुरेंद्र निर्मुक्त शस्त्र प्रत्यस्त्र वर्षिणी.
भंडासुरेंद्र निर्मुक्त शस्त्र प्रत्यस्त्र वर्षिणी.
Awesome. So we'll do the full shloka. महागणेश निर्भिन्न विघ्न यंत्र प्रहर्षिता भंडासुरेंद्र निर्मुक्त शस्त्र प्रत्यस्त्र वर्षिणी.
महागणेश निर्भिन्न विघ्न यंत्र प्रहर्षिता भंडासुरेंद्र निर्मुक्त शस्त्र प्रत्यस्त्र वर्षिणी.
Awesome. So we'll look at the first nama. Again, both of these lines are one nama each. So the first one is Mahaganesha Nirbhinna Vighna Yantra Praharshita. She is delighted at the great Ganesha's breaking the obstacle formed of the magic figure. the Vighna Yantram that has been destroyed by Ganesha. So mother is delighted seeing that Ganesha destroyed it. The magic figure named Jaya Vighna Yantra, which had 8 angles and 8 tridents, thrown by Vishukra on the army of Devi. It was broken into pieces by Mahaganesha. So what they say in Lalitopakhyanam is by throwing this yantra, all the Shaktis that were waging this war, they became lazy, they became de-energized, and they felt sleepy. They did not want to get up and go wage the war, continue the fight. And Ganesha had to come and break this break this yantra, and everybody got re-energized again. So you can easily connect to what are all those things, that the obstacles that we were talking about. Oh, I have an alarm at 4 o'clock to do my sadhana. I don't feel like waking up. I am lazy. I don't have energy today. I had a full load of work in the office and I came home. I have no energy to practice. All of these things are Ganesha takes care of these, so we can move forward with our sadhana. The next nama, Bhanda Surendra Nirmukta Shastra Pratyastra Varshini. So she is showering missiles in response to weapons thrown by Bhandasura. So in Dhanurvedam, which is one of the Upavedas, there are 2 terms, and even in Gita we were talking about it yesterday. There is something called Shastra and Astra. So Shastra is something you hold in the hand and you fight, something like a sword or a gada or something like that. And Astra is something that is wielded at the other person, like an arrow, something that leaves the hand. So,
Dr. Gurishi, I mean, I heard somewhere I apologize, I mean, for interrupting,
please
but
go ahead. Please go ahead.
you know, what I heard was Shastra is any instrument or weapon, whatever you say, but Astra is when you apply mantra to one particular, whatever weapon you're using. So if you apply mantra, becomes Astra. But if it is just bland weapon, it is Shastra. I could be
Quite
wrong,
possibly.
but that's what I heard.
Quite possibly, yeah. And most of the arrows are the ones that come up with, like, there is the Mahapashupatastram, there is the Garuda Antra, like
Comes with mantra, then they become Astra.
Correct. Okay. So Mahaganesha is the mastery over Puryashtakam. So this Puri of Ashta, we have seen what those are. So the city of 8 things, we get mastery over this, the Sukshma and Sthula Sariras. It means the realization of self. If these don't exist and the Karana is also not us, that's when the realization of the self happens. The magic figure of Vishukra and the missiles of Bhandasura refer to the different modifications or nescience, avidya, and Devi showering missiles means the continuance of the act of realizing the supreme individuality. Okay. So next shloka. Karanguli nakhotpanna Narayana Dashakritihi Mahapashupatastragni Nirdagdhasura Sainika. So Nirdagdha, there is an avaraha there, which is about Nirdagdha Sainika. So that's how it is, but we don't pronounce A differently. It's Nirdagdhasura Sainika. Who would like to chant the shloka?
I can do it, Sriji.
Awesome, thank you. Karangulina Narayana Dashakritihi
कराङ्गुलिनखोत्पन्न नारायणदशाकृतिः
Mahapashupatastragni Nirdagdhasura Sainika.
महापाशुपदास्त्राग्नि निर्दग्धासुरसैनिका.
Awesome, so we'll do the full shloka. Karangulina Khotpanna Narayana Dashakritihi Mahapashupatastragni Nirdagdhasura Sainika.
कराङ्गुलिनघोत्पन्न नारायणदशाकृतिः Mahapashupatastragni nirdadhasura sainika.
Awesome. Thank you.
Vijay, is it Karanguli or Karanguli?
Li, the Yara Lava, the
Lee.
last one.
Okay, it's
Yeah.
written Lee here. Okay, thank you.
Kara Anguli. Anguli is the nails.
Thank you.
From the nails of her 10 fingers sprang the 10 forms of Lord Narayana. So we are saying the 10 forms, Dasha Akritihi of Narayana are the 10 incarnations. And the Daityas, so the Asuras, sprung into existence from the missile called Sarva Surastra, which was aimed by Bhandasura, where Somaka, Ravana, Bali, Hiranyaksha, all of those asuras sprang up from. So Bhandasura revived all those asuras that were killed by Lord Narayana in various avatars. So what will mother do then? So she called upon her elder brother and others who were known to have fought several battles and had their origins thus. In order to destroy these Daityas, Devi created, or from her finger ends, the 10 incarnations of Vishnu, Matsya Kurma avatars, in regular order from her right thumb to the left small finger. So Lalitopakhyanam describes from the right thumbnail of the great queen sprang the divine all-pervading Narayana in the form of great fish, and then the list of all the avatars is given. And all the avatars having performed their respective onerous tasks rejoiced with Lalita on what the Lalita was performing at that time to wage the war on the Shakritis, or what the war is about. So 10 forms, there is another esoteric meaning to this. The word in the text is Dashakritihi, which may also be taken to mean the 5 states Dasha of the Jiva and the 5 function Kritis of Ishvara. The 5 states are waking state, dream state, Sushupti, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, and Turiya Avastas and Turiyatita Avastas. And the 5 functions of Ishvara we've talked about: Srishti, Sthiti, Samhara, Tirodhana, and Anugraha. So that's the esoteric to this. Moving to the next Nama. We have 2 minutes. I hope we can finish it. Or shall we just conclude here? And if there are anybody wants to share any thoughts, we may do that and come back to this Nama next week.
We can start new next week.
Okay.
One curiosity question.
Sure.
What is the time period for this happening?
I don't know.
Because you said the avatars
all
were
the avatars, yeah. So this is kind of feels like after all the avatars, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they
And
say.
all these Puranas have been written by Vyasa, right? Like Devi Bhagavatam is also written by Vyasa, and like so is Bhagavatam, and so are the other, like Markandeya Purana, or the Matsya Purana, Narada Puranam, Brahmanda Puranam, Shiva Puranam, Linga Puranam. All the 18 Puranas and 18 Upapuranas have been written by him. So I personally am not so much into like the historicity of this, so would not know. Maybe Devdutt Patnaik might have to say about it. And I personally don't listen to him much.
Okay.
Guruji, I heard there's a trident of mother in the Ujjain temple, which is like the Trishul, like which was used in the war. Like it's scientists have like checked it out. They can't figure out the metal or things like that. Is that true?
I haven't heard about it, Anitaji. I haven't been
It's
to
an
Ujjain
Ujjain temple.
I hope to go to Ujjain sometime soon.
Yeah,
Thankfully,
because
my cousin
it's
lives pretty close
beautiful.
by.
That's what I heard. Like it's the thin, and it's like if you see the size of it, then you can visualize how mother would have been, like the Vishwarupa with which she came. That's what I don't know if I might have the article. If I have, I will share it.
That'll be
I had
great.
got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't been to
And I
Ujjain
think
yet.
the confusion is that Ravana was killed by Sri Rama, and then Bhandasura is again reviving him, and again Devi is creating the Dashavatar of Narayana. which involves Sri Rama.
Which includes Sri Rama in the Dashavataras. So what if even if it is a revival of all the asuras that have been killed by him, then it is only he who can destroy those. So hence mother did not say, oh, Sampatkari can do this work on behalf of Narayana. Instead, she called upon her brother to take those different incarnations and destroy. And they also represent various things in our heads, right? Like Ravana represents the ego, and the diversity in our heads on, like, that's the whole 10 heads discussion. So how all of those need to get destroyed within ourselves. Okay. Any final before we conclude? That's good. So we'll conclude with a prayer. ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ लोका समस्ता सुखिनो भवन्तु. Sarvam Sri Paradevataarpanamastu. Thank you so much for your time. We'll catch up next week.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Guruji.
Guruji.
Thank you, Sriji.
Thank you.